The Grand Admiralty Hall was designed to impress even those who believed themselves impossible to impress. It floated at the heart of the coalition's capital station, a vast spherical chamber where gravity was carefully moderated and reality itself bent to accommodate species that experienced existence in wildly different ways. Light flowed instead of shining, curving into symbols and colors that translated speech, intent, and emotion simultaneously. The air hummed with restrained power and centuries of authority. Today, that authority was amused. A massive holographic ring hovered at the center of the chamber, slowly rotating through a list of newly registered military vessels from the coalition's youngest member species, humanity. Each ship name appeared in bold glyphs, automatically rendered into every known language and perception format. For a heartbeat, the admirals studied the list in silence. Then laughter rippled outward, starting from the upper tiers and cascading down like a wave. Surely this is an error, Admiral Crareth of the Velm Collective clicked, his bioluminescent frills pulsing in sharp, mocking colors. These are not warship names. They are emotional statements. Several other admirals signaled agreement. Some laughed audibly. Others expressed amusement through color shifts, harmonic vibrations, or subtle changes in gravity fields around their forms. Admiral Cethal, whose species communicated through layered resonance, produced a tone the translators softened into polite language. Never again. Last stand. Hold the line. These are phrases spoken by defeated species shortly before extinction. Another name scrolled past. Come and take it. The laughter intensified. These humans name their vessels as if daring the universe itself, said a crystalline admiral whose facets glittered with sarcasm. It suggests insecurity, or bravado compensating for weakness. At the lowest tier, the human delegation remained still. 3 officers sat side by side in plain, dark uniforms. No ceremonial armor. No elaborate rank displays. Just fabric, metal insignia, and calm expressions. Commander Mara Hayes rested her hands loosely on her knees, eyes tracking the hologram without visible reaction. The contrast was striking. Where other species projected dominance through sheer presence, the humans seemed almost quiet. Admiral Tukor noticed. Ancient even by coalition standards, Tukor's chitinous frame bore the marks of wars fought before humans had discovered fire. He leaned forward, heavy limbs shifting the gravity field slightly as he focused on the human commander. Commander Hayes, he said, his voice translated as a deep, steady rumble. The coalition values clarity and intent. Explain your species naming conventions. Why do you assign such personal language to instruments of war? Every gaze turned toward the humans. Hayes lifted her head. Her face showed no embarrassment, no defensiveness. Only patience. Because our ships are personal, she said. The answer landed softly, and was immediately drowned out by renewed amusement. Emotional attachment to weapons, Crareth scoffed. That explains much. Another admiral leaned back, limbs relaxed in superiority. Your species has survived barely a fraction of a galactic cycle. You will learn that sentiment has no place in warfare. Hayes did not argue. She did not smile. She simply watched as the hologram continued to rotate. More names appeared. Broken promise. No safe harbor. Remember US. The tone in the chamber shifted slightly. The laughter grew less sharp, replaced by puzzled curiosity. Those are darker, Cethal resonated. Not boastful. Reflective. They still lack dignity, Crareth insisted. Our warships carry the names of stars and equations. Eternal things. Yours sound like memories. They are, Hayes replied quietly. That should have ended the discussion. Instead, it drew attention. Admiral Tukor studied her more closely now. Memories of what? Before Hayes could answer, the hologram paused. A new name appeared, larger than the others, its translation unusually direct. Monster. For a split second, the hall was silent. Then it erupted. Mockery echoed from every tier. Some admirals openly displayed disbelief. Others expressed alarmingly enthusiastic amusement. A monster, laughed the crystalline admiral. Is this a child's nightmare or a warship? Perhaps humans believe fear itself as a strategy, another added. Even Tukor's mandibles twitched, though his eyes remained thoughtful. Commander Hayes, surely this is a translation anomaly. Hayes looked up at the word hovering in the air. No, she said, that one's accurate. The laughter reached its peak, and was abruptly cut short by a sharp pulse of crimson light rippling across the chamber. Alert signals. Not alarms. Not panic. Something far more serious. A junior sensor officer rushed forward, movements stiff with professional discipline barely containing fear. Admirals, we have a high mass emergence at the edge of the system. Every display in the hall snapped away from the registry. Space unfolded in layered sensor views, visual, gravitational, energy spectrum, all converging on a single point where reality had just been torn open. Something was coming out of slipspace. At first, it looked like a shadow where no shadow should exist. Then scale registered. The object was enormous. Not a fleet, not a station. One ship. Its hull was vast and angular, layered with armor that looked less manufactured and more accumulated, like scars hardened over time. The mass readings climbed beyond standard parameters. Gravity bent subtly around it, stars warping at its edges as if unwilling to look directly at it. Power signatures stabilized, controlled, deliberate, restrained. The chamber was utterly silent. The sensor officer swallowed. Identification, confirmed. It matches coalition records. A pause. Human vessel. The name appeared across every display at once. HMS Monster. No one laughed. The human delegation remained seated, still and calm, as if this outcome had always been inevitable. Commander Hayes didn't look at the admirals. She watched the ship settle into real space, immense and patient, like something that had been waiting a very long time to be remembered. The ship did not announce itself. It did not broadcast identification codes beyond the bare minimum required by coalition law, and it made no attempt to display power through dramatic maneuvers. It simply moved, massive and inevitable, easing into high orbit as if the system had been designed around it rather than the other way around. Space adjusted. Gravity recalculated. Every admiral felt it in their instruments and in the instinctive unease that came when something far larger than you acknowledged your existence. The Grand Admiralty Hall remained silent long after the monster finished its insertion burn. Data streams poured in, mass, energy output, hull density, and then quietly exceeded expected limits. Several consoles automatically flagged the readings as erroneous. They recalibrated. The numbers rose again, unchanged. Admiral Tukor slowly straightened his immense frame. That vessel, he said carefully, does not conform to any known coalition classification. No, Commander Hayes replied as she rose from her seat. It doesn't. Her voice was calm, steady, the tone of someone reciting facts long accepted. Crareth's bioluminescent frills, once so vibrant with mockery, had dulled to a cautious glow. That mass alone rivals a mobile fortress. Why was this ship not disclosed during accession negotiations? It was, Hayes said. You categorized it as a hypothetical deterrent platform. Several admirals shifted uncomfortably. Data logs surfaced, old and half forgotten. Proposals marked improbable. Projections dismissed as human exaggeration. Cethal's resonance dipped into a frequency associated with concern. Your projections underestimated nothing. Outside the station, the monster completed its orbital lock. Defensive fields shimmered briefly, then vanished from visible spectra, folding inward into something denser, more controlled. Escort vessels detached from recessed bays along its hull, not sleek fighters, but heavily armored craft the size of coalition cruisers, each moving with disciplined precision. They're not deploying aggressively, an admiral observed. No, Hayes agreed. They're taking positions. For what purpose? Crareth asked. Hayes turned to face the chamber fully. In case something convinces us this meeting requires protection. That answer settled heavily. Tukor activated a private channel to the human commander, though the coalition's transparency protocols allowed all present to listen. Commander Hayes, why name a ship of this magnitude monster? Your species understands the power of symbolism. Hayes nodded once. Exactly. Monsters are what you build when heroes fail. A new data packet unlocked without prompting. Combat records, time-stamped and authenticated. The room filled with silent imagery. A collapsing binary system, one star destabilized by exotic weaponry. The monster positioned itself between the stars and a populated world, its engines burning in controlled agony as it countered gravitational shear for 16 hours straight. Casualty estimates revised downward in real time as evacuation windows widened. Another record. A hostile extragalactic entity, classification redacted, its fleet spread across 3 orbits. The monster arrived alone. 6 minutes later, there was nothing left to classify. Crareth recoiled slightly. That engagement log, there is no pursuit phase. No, Hayes said. There didn't need to be. The data continued. The monster holding a shattered moon together with tractor fields while civilian ships fled through emergency corridors. The monster absorbing a planet killer beam long enough for countermeasures to activate elsewhere. The monster arriving too late to save a colony, and still ending the war that destroyed it. Silence thickened. Cethal's voice trembled through the translators. This vessel is not designed for victory. It is designed for inevitability. Yes, Hayes said quietly. That's why it scares us too. Tukor folded his forelimbs, a gesture of deep contemplation. Then answer me this, Commander. Why reveal it now? Hayes met his gaze. Because you laughed. A few admirals bristled. Others listened more closely. You laughed at the names, she continued. At never again. At remember us. At hold the line. You thought they were emotional. Undisciplined. They are, Crareth muttered weakly. They're also accurate, Hayes replied. Every one of those ships was named after a moment when we were desperate. When we were outmatched. When someone said those words and meant them. She gestured toward the display where the monster loomed in orbit, dark and immense. That one was named after what we became when words stopped working. Outside, the monster adjusted its orientation slightly. Not toward the station. Toward open space. Toward the dark between stars. Sensor officers noted the change but did not announce it. They didn't need to. What threat is it watching for? Cethel asked. Hayes exhaled slowly. The kind you don't see coming until it's too late. The kind that thinks restraint is weakness. Crareth stared at the data still hovering before him. Your ship names, he said at last, are not meant to intimidate enemies. No, Hayes agreed. They're reminders to us. Of lines we drew. Of promises we made to the dead. Tikor inclined his massive head, a sign of respect rarely given. The coalition misunderstood your species. Hayes allowed a small, tired smile. That happens a lot. Outside the station, the monster remained motionless, its presence altering orbital calculations across the system. It did not threaten. It did not boast. It simply waited. One by one, the admirals revised their assessments. Human military doctrine reclassified. Human ship nomenclature reassigned new significance. Laughter replaced with caution, then with something closer to understanding. No one suggested removing the monster from orbit. No one asked the humans to rename their ships. And as the meeting resumed, every admiral was acutely aware of the silent guardian above them, named not to inspire fear in others, but to remind humanity of exactly how far it was willing to go when the universe pushed too hard.